I think that everyone on the planet can universally agree that there's just a few things that will always change your perspective on life. One of those things being Twitter. And this is still unfortunately true of Amazon's official Rings of Power account on Twitter, which has reposted some beautiful things like the "give me the meat and give it to me raw" scene, which had the very predictable caption of, yes, you guessed it, "give me the meat and give it to me raw." And yes, that scene was also actually in the Rings of Power, the most expensive TV show to ever be made. But before I finish the video, go down below, like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me what you think about this video. Despite the fact that you haven't watched it yet, just pretend like you have and give me compliments and maybe content ideas too, because this video is making me uncomfortable. So now to begin with, the backstory to this entire video is that A, Amazon weird, and B, Amazon bad. Amazon bad because of a Variety article that came out quite some time ago, pretty much just outlining that Amazon is going to be hiring in the future based off of gender, ethnicity, nationality, etc., etc. More details on screen, and I know I've talked about this before, but it's because it's something that is massive and incredibly corrupt, and this is something that not nearly enough people are talking about. Whether you're left, middle, or right, you should agree, regardless of where you were born, the color of your skin, or who you like, you should be on a totally 100% equal playing field as someone who likes someone else who is born in a different place or has a different color of skin. A matter of fact, some people would say that should be illegal, and it's discrimination, which it is. Funny thing is, I remember a while ago, I replied to someone's comment on Twitter, and I was talking about, yeah, well, Amazon's actually not a great company, and then someone else totally out of the blue asked me, hey, why is that? I was like, oh, this person seems pretty reasonable, maybe I can, give my opinion, and they'll respect it. And then I was like, hey, so basically Amazon hires based off of all these things. Later, I checked for a reply, but it turned out the person had blocked me, which I guess is cool, because I've genuinely never had anyone even try to say that, hey, these policies aren't actually freaking terrible. And to be fair to them, there's absolutely nothing that they could say that would be valid. This is particularly true given that they were just a random person on Twitter, meaning that they probably had the IQ of a tadpole. Moving on, there's something else that's really important to talk about. Amazon's directors for the next season of The Rings of Power. They released them in 3 separate posts, and yes, that was my fingers cracking, but the issue is all 3 of them are female. And no, my point here isn't that women can't direct any better than they can drive, and I also don't hate women. Now, I do have to say, however, I am very hurt that all of my female audience disappeared after I had not posted for a while. I literally lost all of my female audience. But hey, it's okay, because at this point in my life, I am used to all of the women in my life leaving me. That's all a joke, by the way. And you want to know what else is a joke? Amazon. It's literally ridiculous. So I've been doing some rooting around lately, and I found a Variety article that linked to Amazon's official website where they talk about their quote-unquote inclusion playbook. Now, if you scroll down, you see a bunch of different sections like inclusive storytelling, hiring behind the camera, inclusive production, inclusive casting, resources, and reporting and documentation. And now I have this right on screen. Who do you see right above hiring behind the camera? That's right, Charlotte Brandstrom, one of the directors for Season 1 of The Rings of Power. So Amazon is literally insinuating that she is one of their diversity hires, meaning that if she was a guy, she would not get the job because she would not fit the main criteria, being a woman. And so in light of all of the stuff that I've already talked about, does it not seem incredibly fishy that all 3 of their directors for Season 2, at least as far as we know, are completely female? And now I also found a little bit of data on their website, which I'd like to read out to you in its entirety. Above the line targets. The targets for above the line hiring based on talent availability data are as follows. Now at first glance, it might seem like a great thing that they're going for specifically 30% women if that is reflected by the amount of women overall in the field. However, this policy still just ensures that there's going to be some amount of men that don't get the jobs that they deserve simply based on the fact that they are men and not women. Because there will come a point, obviously, when there's a woman and a man competing for the same job, but guess what? They need a woman, they don't need a man, and then bam, the guy might be way more qualified for the job, but they're just not going to go for it. And in a very similar vein, just because they have these policies and these targets, that also shows us that as a whole, I definitely don't think we can expect them to be fair at all whatsoever when it comes to hiring. For instance, let's say they already have their 30% women. What's to stop them from wanting to, get 100% of their directors to be women, such as in Season 2 of The Rings of Power, just because they're women. And going down the rabbit hole that is Amazon's diversity, equity, and inclusion website, I found a link to this report about benevolent sexism from some psychology website. Benevolent sexism is a form of paternalistic prejudice, treating a lower status group as a father might treat a child, directed towards women. Prejudice is often thought of as a dislike or antipathy towards a group. Benevolent sexism, however, is an affectionate but patronizing attitude that treats women as needing men's help, protection, and provision. And so already, if Amazon's looking at this website, which again they are linking to, then if they have a woman that's being helped, protected, or provided for by a guy, then that's benevolent sexism, and they can't actually have that in their show. This actually seems pretty true. Let's take Arondir as an example. I remember there's one specific time in the show where he goes to investigate something that he knows is going to be pretty dangerous. And who does he bring with him? That's right, his girlfriend. And now this is something where, I really just want to say, like, it's not sexism to not bring a woman into a scenario where she might get killed, not only because, he's the guy and he should be a lot stronger and he knows how to deal with weapons, but, well, he is a trained soldier and this is his job, whereas she, quite frankly, is the village healer, a single mother, and would not know how to handle herself in a fight. Yet still, he brings her over there, and she also helps out in a bigger fight in episode 6. So, you know what? Great job protecting and providing for your girl. But you know what, if you actually did do that and you did care enough for her to, make sure that she didn't die in the battlefield, then, well, that would be sexism. We can't have that. Now, it may shock you to learn that one thing that I just said was actually not true. And this is that Bronwyn, the woman I'm talking about, can't fight, because she actually can, with, as far as we are aware, absolutely zero experience. She and her son are in some of the biggest fight scenes in the whole show. So to be honest, stuff like this, it's just so obviously directly affected by the fact that they just want strong female characters that aren't stereotypical. Because having a single mother that's a healer in a village who can't defend herself, which, would actually make way more sense, just isn't what Amazon wants. But I would like to remind you, although this effect on their stories is bad, it makes the stories less realistic, less believable, less enjoyable, it still isn't nearly as bad as the literal discrimination going on in their hiring policies. That is the stuff that everyone should be rallying against and that no one should be okay with. This stuff, however, it's significantly more innocent. You might say it has some subconscious effect on the viewers, it's brainwashing children. I don't really give a crap about that. I think we should all care a lot more about the people who are literally missing out on jobs just because of their gender. Now, the same psychology website goes on to talk more about patronizing behaviors, such as men being over-helpful, and they also even talk some about men being chivalrous and how that makes women seem less independent. And it's kind of funny because some of the stuff about benevolent sexism kind of makes me realize that I am, contrary to popular belief, a benevolent sexist, and that's something I genuinely never thought I'd call myself. But I think I might be, because the article talks a lot about over-helping women. So, if you give her your hand while she's going upstairs, downstairs, a step, or anything like that, women are actually able to walk down and upstairs sometimes by themselves. So, if you offer your hand like that to be really nice, you need to realize that it's actually sexism, and you're making her seem less and less independent. And now, to be fair to the article, it does have some valid points, like, women do get patronized, obviously, but still, that doesn't mean that the other half of what they say isn't really brain dead. And in particular, I think it would be a really terrible thing if any woman ever applied this to her life, or any guy for that matter. And so much of this really goes to show Amazon's perspectives when they're writing their own characters. Let's just take, for instance, Galadriel. You could say that she was polite, kind, caring, wise, and level-headed. But hey, we can actually have Galadriel be a stereotypical woman, or have traits that are stereotypical of a woman, or specifically a mother. So instead, Amazon was probably like, hey, let's make her a murderous, torturous jerk. Her character turning out like that very much seems like it could have been a direct result of these exact policies. And now, I also want to be fair to Amazon and say that it's really good that they have some policies against sexualizing women, at least to some degree, and I think that's a really positive thing. It's also great that Rings of Power was free of sex, nudity, and sexualized women, pretty much all of that. And I would very much like to rub it in everyone's nose that I was right and that there was absolutely none of that kind of stuff in the Rings of Power. And heading back to Twitter, really, most of the comments are overwhelmingly negative. It just goes to show this show has not been received well, and it's not doing well, and honestly, the quicker Amazon can be done with a show, the better it is for everyone. Now go down below, like, subscribe, and tell me what you thought of this video, what you think about sexism, and if you think Amazon should continue discriminating in their hiring. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. To God alone be the glory.